Hey everybody, today I'm going to review the SP-Air Super Fast Mini Impact Ratchets. And they do have these in two different drive sizes, a 1/4 inch drive as well as a 3/8 inch drive. Now right off the bat I'll tell you that they look pretty much identical on the outside, and the only real differences between the two of these is going to be the drive sizes, and then the fact that the 3/8 inch version does have 55 foot-pounds of torque, and then the 1/4 inch version has 50 foot-pounds of torque. So between the two of these, that is going to be really the only difference. Now what I want to do in this video is really go over the different features that they have built into these, and we're going to see them compared to some other products. Now what I have right here is just a standard 3/8 inch air ratchet, and you can see right off the bat the tremendous size difference between the two of these. Where this just will not fit, this is going to get in there and get the job done for you. Now they both have that ratcheting action, so you can use them to break something free if the torque is not going to be enough to actually initially loosen the bolt. But the real advantage comes with this standard air ratchet jerking your wrist, slamming into a piece of metal. This actually has an impact mechanism inside, and it's going to create reactionless torque just like a standard air impact wrench. So what I want to do now is give you some closer up views of the SP-Air ratchets, and then we're going to see how they actually perform. Here's a closer look at the two different models side by side, and this being the 1/4 inch version and this being the 3/8 inch version. They're exactly the same length, they're the exact same construction, with the main difference of course being the little power difference as well as that drive end. Now you can see this is the 1/4 inch version. It's a very small little drive end sticking out of there. And what I want to tell you is, even though you may be looking at these and you may think, okay, well I can get the 3/8 inch version, put an adapter on it, and it's going to do the exact same thing as the 1/4 inch version, even when I account for the torque loss, because this is rated at basically 10% higher power with 55 foot-pounds of torque versus the 50 foot-pounds of torque. Now what I'm going to do side by side is first I'm going to put a 1/4 inch drive 8mm socket on the 1/4 inch drive one. Then I'm going to put an 8mm 3/8 inch drive socket. Now both of these are going to be 8mm, but you can now see side by side just the tremendous size difference because the sockets are so much smaller. Now both of these are going to be the shallow versions. And let's say you wanted to instead use this 1/4 inch version over here on the 3/8 inch with an adapter. So I have a 3/8 to 1/4 inch adapter along with a 7mm socket. So this is even smaller around than the 8mm one. We'll go ahead and pop that on there, and then you can see the tremendous difference between the two of those. So you're almost doubling the length of the head at this point with the socket attached, and you're not going to be able to get into the same positions with the 3/8 to 1/4 inch adapter that you would be able to get into with the straight 1/4 inch version. So that's really what you want to keep in mind if you only want to get one of these. If you do end up putting that adapter on there, you are going to add a considerable amount of length to do the exact same thing. It pretty much makes it as long as a standard deep well socket at this point. So here's a comparison between the SP-Air and then a standard Ingersoll Rand 170G 3/8 inch drive air ratchet. Now overall I'll tell you this one weighs about half as much. You can see it is much shorter. I mean, even with the fitting included, it's at least about 3 inches shorter than this one. And the main difference of course is going to be the size and speed of the two. Now the other thing to point out, because this is an air ratchet, this is going to snap your wrist when you reach the bottom of a bolt, where because this does have that impacting mechanism, it's going to be completely reactionless. Now the best part in my opinion regarding the SP-Air is how fast they are. This is coming in at 500 RPMs, where the Ingersoll Rand is only coming in at roughly 160 RPMs. So this is literally 3 times as fast as the larger version. Now the main advantage of the Ingersoll Rand is going to be the additional leverage. So when you go to put a socket on here, and let's say this can't break it free, you are going to have additional leverage to break that free. Where the smaller SP-Air, you just wouldn't have as much leverage. So that would be the one negative in my opinion. But they are both going to be ratcheting, and this is going to have that added bonus of having that impacting mechanism inside. Now let's see a direct comparison with the same air pressure to see how fast the two of these are. Now to give you a demonstration of the extreme speed difference between the SP-Air and its 500 RPMs, and then just a standard air ratchet and its 160 RPMs. I put a threaded rod that's coated in grease in the vise, and what we're going to do is go ahead and just spin this out with the standard air ratchet. I'm going to switch the hose onto the SP-Air and then run it back in. So you'll be able to see firsthand the extreme difference between the two. Now I'm going to pop the SP air on there and run it back in. So that's a real quick demonstration to show you the extreme speed difference between the SP air and just a standard air ratchet. Okay, I placed the 3/4 inch nut and bolt in the vise, torqued it down over 100 foot-pounds, and now using a standard air ratchet, I'm going to try and remove that. Now what I want to show you in this demonstration is how much kickback this has as far as snapping your wrist. Then we're going to try the exact same test with the SP air. So putting it on here and just pulling on the trigger, you can see how it wants to jerk right out of your wrist. So let's say you're using this under a vehicle and your hand was on the top, that would have just slammed into some metal. So I'll pop the air line off of there using the exact same socket and the same air line. I'm popping it on the SP air, and you're going to be able to hear now that impacting action. So listen to this. Even though it's not going to remove it, it will impact it to try to remove it. And when it can't remove it, it's not going to jerk out of my hands. And I'm so confident in this, I'm going to go ahead and take 2 fingers, press in on the trigger, and then watch how much it jerks. It absolutely does not have any reaction. It's not going to jump out of your hand when it reaches the bottom of a bolt. Or if you're trying to remove a bolt that is stuck, you don't really run the risk like you would with a standard air ratchet of hurting yourself. Now lastly, unlike a standard right angle impact, which only relies on the impacting mechanism to break things free, you can see this is in reverse. But let's say it didn't have enough torque to remove this, it would just sit there and spin. It would not go anywhere. So there's nothing inside that's going to ratchet that will allow you to add extra force to remove this. Now that is a main benefit of an air ratchet, and you can see that the SP air, even though it does have that impacting mechanism inside, it still does have the advantages of an air ratchet, because we can still put, let's say, a wrench on the other side of here, and even if it didn't have enough torque, we can still press down on it at this point to break the fastener free. Now that it's broken free, we can pull the trigger and run it out the rest of the way. So now you've seen SP Air's super fast mini impact ratchets for yourself. I'll tell you right off the bat that I like these a lot more than standard air ratchets, which I've never been a fan of, because when they bottom out, they jerk my wrist and they usually slam it into some metal nearby. Now what I really like about these is the fact that they have a lot of power and they have that 500 RPM. So they're going to pull a bolt in or out very quickly, and you're not going to have to waste your time watching it barely move. Now they do come pre-installed with these protective boots on the heads, and they are very lightweight. They're less than 2 pounds, and I think it comes in right about 1.5 pounds a piece. So they're not going to make you tired using them, and because of their compact size, you'll be able to get into some very tight areas and loosen or tighten bolts very easily. And lastly, I want to point out that these are made in Japan, and they do carry a 1-year warranty on them against manufacturer defects. So if you ever do have a problem with them, they will fix these for you free of charge. If you like this video, please click like. If you like my channel, please click subscribe. And thanks for watching.